We will be continuing with Science 1, chapter number 7, Lenses. Today we will be learning about the uses of convex lens. The first example that we are learning is called a simple microscope. A convex lens with a small focal length produces a virtual, erect and bigger image of an object as shown in the figure. This is the principle of the working of a simple microscope. That means if you are keeping a object between O and F, you get to see a virtual, erect and magnified image. This is called as a simple microscope, or we also call it as a magnifying glass. One can get a 20 times larger image of an object using such a microscope. These are used by watch repairers, testing precious gems, finding their defects, etc. You might have seen the watch repairers using them. A small thing lens that they put in their eyes and they try to repair the watch and etc. It is also used by jewelers when they're putting gems and etc. and small intricate designs. That is what is called as a simple microscope. The middle one is an old simple microscope. This is how it was used in the olden days. The right hand side is a magnifying glass, and on the left hand side what we have is a simple microscope. You can see there is a down mirror. You keep on the stand, you keep the things that needs to be magnified. Then you get to see through the lens on top. Compound microscope. A simple microscope can be used to see things like maybe, as I told you, you can see the watch repairer can use it or a jeweler can use it. But suppose you want to see very small microscopic things like bacteria or maybe a fungus or something like this, that cannot be seen with the help of a simple microscope. For that we need to use something called as a compound microscope. A compound microscope has two lenses. One is called as the objective lens and the other one is called as the eyepiece lens. Now the objective lens, as you can see, is smaller as compared to the eyepiece, and its focal length is also smaller as compared to the eyepiece. The objective is kept towards the object and eyepiece is through which we can see the things. A higher magnification can be obtained by the combined effect of the two lenses. That means it becomes like two lenses one after the other. So the magnification becomes many times. How does the magnification occurs? In this case, look at the diagram. You have an object. Look at the size of the object. Now it's a small object. It is usually kept beyond the F. You can see beyond the focal length, that is it is between C and F or F and F2. Now that forms a real and inverted image in the lens of the tube, and this will be becomes the object for the second lens, and here it is within the focal length just like the simple microscope, and you get to see a clear image which is virtual as well as erect image. Depending upon the number of times it is being magnified, you can magnify the object many times. For example, if the first lens is magnifying it 10 times and the second lens is again magnifying by 10 times, so the overall magnification becomes 10 into 10, that is 100 times. That's why it can be seen on a very large, and you can see very small things also. The image formed by the first lens acts as the object for the second lens. This is a compound microscope. You can see the eyepiece, then you can see what it is written as revolving nose piece. Then there are objective. Here there are three different shown over here. That means each has a different magnification. It may be 10 times, maybe 50 times, maybe 5 times, depending upon that. You have the base, you have the mirror. You keep the object where it is written as the condenser above that, and then there's a body tube and you are able to see a magnified object through the eyepiece. Telescope. While we use a microscope to magnify small objects, a telescope is used to see distant objects clearly in their magnified form. like we want to see some planets or stars or things like that. The telescope is used to observe astronomical sources like stars, planets, etc., and they are called as astronomical telescope. They are of two types. One is called as refracting telescope. They are called as refracting because they use lens, and the other one is called as reflecting telescope because they use a combination of mirrors as well as lens. If you remember, in the 9th standard we had learnt about reflecting telescope, Newtonian, and etc. Now in this case what happens is, here they use what we are learning this, if you look at the image, a refracting telescope. Now here in this case what happens, the image of the formed by the objective acts as the object. If you look at the diagram, it is as if parallel rays of light coming from a distant object and forms a point image, and that point image forms like an object for the eyepiece, and we are able to see a clear direct image. Objective has larger diameter and larger focal length, because of which maximum amount of light coming from the distant object can be collected, while the eyepiece is comparatively smaller with a smaller focal length. Now by changing the eyepiece and the magnification, different magnification can be obtained. Objective as well as eyepiece, both of them are kept inside a tube, and this tube, or this, you can say the metallic tube, they are movable. You can move and change the focal length of eyepiece as well as objective. So by using the same objective but different eyepiece, you can get different magnification from the same object. Reflecting telescope. We had learnt about it last year. This is just the image for you to understand. In a reflecting telescope, the objective is a mirror and we use a lens also. In reflecting telescope, light is captured through a curved mirror. The light rays are focused on a secondary mirror which magnifies the image that is formed. We can also use a combination of mirror and lens in case of reflecting telescope. This is the image as well as the diagram of a refracting telescope. Now you can see over here that you have a smaller eyepiece and you have a bigger objective. And you can also see the telescopic tube which can be which is movable, and you are able to move to change the focal length. Persistence of vision. This is a very interesting thing that we learn, that we know that whenever we are seeing an object, the image is formed on the retina, and the image remains there on the retina as long as the object is in front of us. When you remove the object from front of our eye, the image also goes away, but it does not go away immediately. The image remains for 1/16th of a second on the retina, even after the object is removed. This is called as persistence of vision. There are many things, especially what we learn about animations and what we learn the concept of picture, that is movie, in the olden days when we used to watch those Tom and Jerry cartoons and different type of animated movies and all. They work on this particular principle. Even if you remember, you might have seen something what is called as a flip. There is something called as a flip book. That is, when you flip the pages, you look, it feels as if it is moving very fast and you are able to see. A very simple thing that we get to see is that if you take different colors and you move it very fast, it appears as if it is showing as a different color. So all these are example of persistence of vision. Now from that, it brings us to the topic that how do we get to see different colors. We are able to identify red color, green color, blue color, as well as different shape. How do we do that? This happens because our retina has many light sensitive cells. They are shaped like a rod as well as like a cone. The rod of the cells respond to the intensity of light, that means how bright it is or how dim it is, whereas the conical cell responds to the color and gives information about the color of the object to the brain. The brain processes the information and we are able to see the image. Means whether it is bright or it is light, whether it's red or whether it is yellow, things like that. Now what happens is that the brain processes all and gives that to it. Rod-like cells respond to faint light, but conical cells do not. Thus we perceive colors only in bright light. That's why in the night we are not able to see any color, because our cells are not able to respond to the color if it is not bright enough. Then, when red color falls on the eye, the cells responding to red light gets excited more than those responding to other colors, and we get to see the red color. Some people cannot respond to certain color, and we call them as colorblind. This kind of people, the main thing is that they are unable to distinguish between red and green color. Otherwise, they have completely normal vision. This is a simple experiment for persistence of vision. On one side you draw a cage, on the other side a bird, and if you move it very fast, it looks as if the bird is inside the cage. That completes this chapter. Next lecture we will be doing the question answers. Thank you.